before we get into anything, I want to say that you should probably wait until after the 1024 update to do your Hall of Trials run. This is for two main reasons. One, there's going to be an unequip event, so you can save your gold by waiting until the unequip starts to move your gear around. And second, the Cruel Mischief buffs are going to give it 40% attack instead of 30% damage boost at max limit break. Last rotation, Dux Noctis was the best in slot artifact, and that only caps out at 36% attack at max limit break. So Cruel Mischief is both more accessible and higher damage, so you would gain a lot of damage by waiting until then, especially if you don't have a max limit break Dux Noctis. Now we can get into this rotation. No overlapping elements. So we reused Rowana and Lilka last time, and I dropped Rowana for Achates to hit the element requirement. I tried looking at other DPSs, but your DPS needs the self-attack buff and also be able to double S3 to break the barrier and then break, or deal damage in the break phase rather. And Fenris and Lilka were the only ones that I could really find that met this requirement, but maybe somebody finds something better later on. And then we have Achates here because she's able to sustain up even with mana restraint, preventing her from reducing her cooldowns. She's still able to sustain up and tank fine. And a lot of people are using Knockwool instead of Ian, of course, in which case you wouldn't be able to run Achates. But this guy down here's got the right idea. Angelica would be a really good tank because Angelica's issue has always been that she does nothing but heal and tank. But it turns out that healing and tanking is all we really need for this fight. So Angelica, if you're using Knockwool, is a very, very good unit. And you can just Grace of Growth her because she's not really used anywhere else. And now we can look at the stats. Lilka is the same as last time. It's just full damage with crit set because Torrent set's really bad. And then after the update on 1024, you just swap out your artifact, whatever it is, for a max limit break Cruel Mischief because it'll be a 40% attack boost. And then for skill enhances, just max her S2 and max her S3. And then there's the two stripper rolls, which are really replaceable. Just make sure they don't have any overlapping elements with your healer and your DPS. But the ones I'm using are Straze. Straze here for his AoE attack percent imprint. Just a good amount of speed to help get the stacks on Lilka in the break phase, and then max out his damage with crit set over Torrent. Then I'm using Card of Small Miracles for the attack percent boost. And Straze's holding Card of Small Miracles instead of Warhorn because the flat attack is a little bit higher. Now we can look at Ian. He's here for his flat attack team imprint. Have him on Warhorn. If you need more sustain, you can give him Bloodstone. But aside from that, he's also, just like Straze, damage with speed and 100% crit chance. And I have him a little bit faster for speed tuning purposes. And then for his skill enhances, S2 and then the strip chance on S3. And now we've got Achates. I have her S3 maxed. Not sure if you need it maxed, but you definitely at least want the -1 turn on her S3. And she needs 100% crit chance, and then a good amount of speed, and then bulk the tank. Her EE doesn't really matter. And then for Artifact, I have her on Touch of Rekos, because the difference between Achates and Rowana is that Rowana was better at healing everybody else, while Achates tanks pretty easily, but her healing on the allies, or on the other allies, suffers, especially with mana restraint. So Rekos helps us get more healing in between her S3s. And then for her imprint, if you are struggling to have one of your strippers survive, you can put them in the top slot and do imprint release instead. But I just have her on concentration because it worked fine for me and I didn't want to swap. And then there's one more thing I want to mention again because it wasn't too relevant last time, but it'll be a bit more relevant this time. So the main mechanic in the break phase is that when you crit, you'll get a target weakness stack and it stacks up to 10 times. And I think they have a little bit of leftover code from last time because if you use a non-attack skill, you will get a target weakness stack, and this only applies to the first one. So that was our first non-attack skill, and we have target weakness. And if I use this again, another non-attack skill, you'll see damage dealt increase popped up again, but it's still at 1 stack. So your very first stack of target weakness can be given by a non-attack skill, and after that, you'll have to stack it normally via crits. But since Achates has so many non-attack skills, and also Ian has his 1 non-attack skill, this could be relevant for you getting the 10 stacks. It's just something to keep in mind in case you need it. And now we can get into the run. The main thing for this rotations run compared to last week's is that Rowana was much better for keeping our allies alive. But Achates, especially since Mana Restraint blocks her from decreasing her S3 cooldown with her S2, her healing isn't as good as it normally is, but it's still good enough for us to get by. And she does work on auto, even though her auto is usually really bad, because with the Burn Detonate, she will have the lowest HP until S2 herself. The invincibility on Achates S2 helps her tank the burn detonates. Which is also why, like I mentioned, I'm using Touch of Red Ghost because Achates tanks fine, it's just keeping everybody else alive that can be a problem. This run pretty much plays out the exact same, and there's not really much to say about it, it's the same as before, but you can use Achates S2 or S3 to get the first stack of target weakness if you really need to in the break phase. Here we stop the auto, this is the barrier, and now we do our 2 strips, Ian S3 and Straze S2. And Achates S3 again to heal everybody up. And now we're just waiting for Lilka to get her turn. So now Lilka uses her S3 and we break the barrier and we're in the break phase. And you can also use Achates skills to stall if you don't want to hit anything yet, because hitting the ad will stealth it a bit. And you obviously don't want to hit Arceti too much. It doesn't really come into play here because of the way the turns lined up, but if I did have Achates going first after Lilka, because Ian cuts her here, but if Achates was going first, then she would be able to give her 1 stack of target weakness using her S3, which you'll see in the second and third phases, just not this one. I have to use Achates S3 to heal up, which is a little bit risky, because there's a chance I won't get the 10 stacks, but I do have enough speed on my units for it to be fine. Just send as many hits as you can into the ad for the CR push. Here's our stall turn with Achates, or Lilka S2. And now we just need 2 more hits, and Arceti still has a couple of hits left for us to sink into her, so we can just get a bit more extra damage by hitting her here. And I use Ian S3 because it looked like Achates was about to cut, and I didn't want to use any of her skills, so we just S1 the ad here, and now it's time for Lilka to use her S3. The rest of the run plays out pretty much the same as that, and as last rotation, so let it play out and I'll see you at the end.
애송이는 안 좋아해서 할 수 있을까?
여러분은 뒤로 물러서세요. 머리를 조아릴 필요 없겠어.
여신을 위하여 빛나는 날개를 펼칠게요.
차가운 혼돈을 무의미한 정의.
제게 싸움을 거신 건가요?
지지 않을 거예요.
절망을 받아들여라.
어떻게든 되겠지? 무섭구나.
전투 모드 전환. 버프 상태를 부여합니다. 제게 싸움을 거신 건가요?
필멸의 시간이 다가온다.
여신을 위하여 빛으로
짓밟아 드리죠.
차가운 혼돈을 선사하지.
이번엔 잘해야 하는데. 모두 구원해드릴게요. 빙글빙글.
여러분은 뒤로 물러서세요.
공포에 물들 시간이다.
지지 않을 거예요.
짓밟아 드리죠.
차가운 혼돈을 선사하지.
난 이런 거 별로야. 제게 맡겨주세요.
제게 싸움을 거신 건가요?
여신을 위하여.
절망을 받아들여라.
전투 모드 전환 한 단계 더 강화합니다. 여러분은 뒤로 물러서세요.
지지 않을 거예요. 할 수 있을까? 난 한 놈만 노려.
어리석은 선택에 말리네요. 이토록 무섭다.
필멸의 시간이 다가오는군.
빛나는 날개를 펼칠게요. 저를 기다렸나요?
슬슬 사라져 주겠네.
이번엔 잘해야 하는데. 이런 일은 자신 없지만 모두 구원해드릴게요. 기훈아,
차가운 혼돈을 선사하지. 무의미한 정.
제게 싸움을 머리를
음,
도와줄 필요 없겠어.
지지 않을 거예요.
공포에 물들 시간이다.
짓밟아드리죠.
어떻게든 되겠지? 이란님을 위해서.
제게 싸움을 거신 건가요? 강화 단계 상승. 전투 모드 전환.
절망을 받아들여라.
여신을 위하여. 좋아져라.
여러분은 뒤로 물러서세요.
필멸의 시간이 다가오는군.
난 이런 거 별로야. 모두 구원해드릴게요. 나와버릴 거예요.
공포에 물들 시간이다.
전투 모드 전환.
지지 않을 거예요.
제게 싸움을 거신 건가요? 한 단계 더 강화합니다. 짓밟아드리죠.
차가운 혼돈을 선사하지.
이번엔 잘해야 하는데. 제게 맡겨주세요. 모두 구원해드릴게요. 여신이
공포에 물들 시간이 피할 수 없는 결말 앞에 사라져라.
전투 모드 전환. 여러분은 뒤로 물러서세요.
여신을 위하여. 어떻게든 되겠지? 난 한 놈만 노려.
쓸모를 다했으니 이제 잠들어도 좋아.
And that's it for the run. This week is definitely harder to survive than last week, so feel free to double up sustain artifacts if you need to, or just give your units more bulk if that gets you through a run. Also, this no overlapping element thing, some people might have noticed that it's been the exact same every single boss. It's just been a use certain elements restriction for the first rotation, then the second rotation is no overlapping elements, and then the third one is no overlapping classes, which we'll see if that holds true with Harseti in week 3. I kind of like them doing it like this because it lets you plan ahead, because I've had this Achates Ian team in mind ever since I started using Ian, like a week into the last rotation. So I've had Achates and Angelica as a knockover healer in my head since for like over a week now. And then I already know what I'm using for the next rotation, if it's going to be no class dupes, because Ian and Lilka are both Rangers, so I'd have to replace Ian with somebody. I think it's kind of nice that they keep on doing the same things, because it keeps it from getting a little bit too complicated, and it also lets us plan ahead a little bit. But hopefully this helps anybody who is pushing for top 100 or even just top 5%, and I will have an auto team up later as well.